It seems to me that there's an especially high burden of proof on the church or whoever to explain why these acts are so contrary to our moral codes or whatever, that a couple needs to endure that and have their
at all costs.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Craig and Jonah here. Episode 250 recap, huh?
Yep. Yeah, so along those lines, I can't remember who brought it up, but they were talking about St. Alphonsus Liguori and how he would tie his hands behind his back. And, to prevent him, to keep him safe.
Of all the people,
Mm-hmm.
It's always the guy you least expect.
It is funny, but I was thinking about that.
Just imagine.
And I think that that's the sort of thing that only works if you're a single guy, because if you're living in a monastery among a group of guys, it could be pretty funny, as far as you're sitting there and then you're sitting there at the supper table or whatever. Perhaps they're praying. I don't know. You got the guy that walks in, his hands bound. They can all kind of snicker to each other. And there's a lot of, solidarity in that, where they're working together towards a goal and trying to keep everybody holy. But if you're married and it's been like a few days or a week since you've been intimate, and you walk through the kitchen with your arms bound, and your wife's going to ask you the first time, what's going on?
Nothing unusual here.
And if you tell her, it all depends on what kind of mood she's in as far as what reaction you get. Could be an eye roll, or perhaps it could even be, all right, let's go and take care of this.
That seems implausible.
It's not impossible, but
I said implausible, not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, that's a low percentage, I would say. You need a lot of things going right that day. Or it could kind of irritate her. And that's what would happen definitely if you kept doing that over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But then it comes down to, if those sorts of actions really are a mortal sin, then you shouldn't be worried about any of that, and you should be tying your hands up all the time.
Yeah.
You should be showing your family, I am keeping myself safe.
Well, there's people out there that they don't have arms, and they figure they get by just fine.
You've seen the videos?
Eat and draw, and I mean, arms are optional, really. They just get us into trouble.
Oh gosh.
I mean, if Father Ripperger's right, you don't want to take chances.
That's true.
One slip up is not worth it. Are you having your arms through life really worth one slip up into solo? I don't think you can say that.
I don't know. That is funny. Because if we do treat it like every act like that is a mortal sin, then it's well worth the price, like you said.
Yeah, and that's where
and you should be warning everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's
warning the masturbators of the world.
It'd be easier to warn the non-masturbators that they could have a quick time.
I don't know.
We get all 5 of you on a Zoom call.
Oh gosh.
So the story he's referencing is I'll call it an urban legend.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it. I don't know. Saint there was a saint who was either so struggled with this horrible heinous thing, whatever the Onan mania pamphlet said, or he was just so paranoid about falling into it that he asked to have his hands tied behind his back, and apparently that was Saint Alphonsus Liguori.
My wife would be even more annoyed if I said, please tie my hands behind my back. Make it really tight.
Yeah. I'll cinch it up. But I have looked for confirmation of that. I haven't been able to find it online. I'm guessing they're not real anxious to broadcast that story. But
Well,
we're looking for confirmation of it. But when you had Origin lopping off his junk to keep himself out of trouble, it certainly seems plausible.
and St. Francis jumped in the thorn bushes,
Yeah.
supposedly. I mean,
Yeah.
If your spouse could get annoyed by that too.
Yeah, I mean, St. Alphonsus, he was a priest and bishop. Like I guess they had to untie him probably for mass. I don't know if he needed his hands.
I don't know if they
so
picked
much
on him.
as-
Come on, buddy. I'm gonna tie your hands, but
He's probably like, tackle me if you see anything untoward going on here, guys.
and
Here's just
I
like,
hope he has a good sense of humor and we can laugh about this. I mean, it's a great story. It's legendary as far as people know about it, and it's pretty funny, really.
So
Like, you can look at it from the serious side that he's trying to keep himself safe, but it's quite humorous. Like, if I saw anybody around town with their hands tied up behind their back for that reason, I would laugh every time I saw them.
those are different times back then.
Maybe.
I don't know. They didn't have phones to carry around, so I don't know. But of all the people, St. Alphonsus Liguori, if you haven't read his stuff, I mean, I don't find it particularly uplifting.
It's more justice and less mercy.
Ooh, it's the four last things, heaven, hell. I mean, the guy was dead serious about avoiding hell, and all the ways you could. Yeah. So the fact that guy struggled with it, like, doesn't that just tell us something? Like,
what, Craig?
So I got some comments after episode 250 that, which was much more of a broad kind of overview of the law and the history, and but was more or less short on commentary, at least from the standpoint of what I think about all this, what Jonah thinks about all this, and I purposely left that out of that episode. But I'll tell you, it starts to look pretty implausible when you start shining a spotlight on some of this, especially where, and this is so unusual. Like, I still can't get over this language. The moral sense of the faithful have been in no doubt and firmly maintained. That's the language from 2352. I think the persona humana had a little different language, but so that and that is from 2352, saying that masturbation is wrong. So, like, well, what do they mean by that? I can't imagine that even among faithful Catholics today, you really ask them directly what they think about this. I don't think you're going to get anywhere near a consensus.
I don't know. If you asked everybody in a group, like, let's say,
well, raise your hand.
Yeah.
They didn't have anonymous.
Would you raise your hand, Greg?
They'd be tied behind my back. I couldn't.
Oh man, that's good.
Raise my leg a little bit.
Oh gosh.
So they did. Yeah, I mean, what? All right, you bunch of heathens. Which of you guys thinks that we should let people engage in the heinous, horrible, leprosy-inducing act of solo? Huh? Now's your chance. Raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
Nobody raised their hand. Let the record reflect that nobody raised their hand.
They've always believed that.
They've always believed that. Yep. But yet, they'll go hear confessions the next day and hear the bloody truth. So it's just so interesting how, again, it's like it's a mandate, or it's almost a democracy. It's like, and like, did like ever, like, what if one person objected, or 10?
Yeah, how many objections does it take?
I don't know. Like, what, and who did they really ask? I'm dumbfounded by it. Like when the more you look at it, you're like, and so if it's,
because especially if it wasn't an issue in the Jewish faith, so like when Jesus is out fishing with those guys, he's like, all right, guys, this has got to stop. Like, do they really mention it then, or I wonder what they would have thought. Peter being married, I think he would have understood that
Yeah.
things aren't always rosy.
Seems like he could have cleared up a lot of confusion with a extra line in the Beatitudes or something like that. I mean, here, Lord, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. Far be it for me to do that.
Got a question here.
Yeah, but I'm just maybe a footnote. Can we like get a passing footnote? I don't know. But there's nothing in there. And my sense is that the Lord didn't spend a lot of time weighing in on the sexual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was going to have
It doesn't seem like it.
No, I was
other than looking at a woman with lust.
Yeah,
that's the only time.
Yeah, I get that. Like,
I think. I'm not a biblical scholar, but
well, unlike me,
we need the Protestants to help us out.
Yeah. Just given the amount of attention that let's say Catholics have historically given to this, and let's say Protestants, even in the post-Lutheran time, given the amount of attention we give to it, it seems like it would have come up during some of the discussions with our Lord, and he would have set the record straight.
It's hard to believe that it didn't.
Yeah. Do they just not?
Considering those guys are, some of those guys are married, and I mean, he's talking to Mary Magdalene. I mean, there's
I mean, the Lord, I would assume, doesn't have to be squeamish about talk. I mean,
I would assume
this is real stuff, right?
Yeah.
If souls are going to hell because of it,
like if he had called out somebody for hand jobs in the Bible.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'll
give you the Onan treatment. Remember that guy?
Yeah, remember that guy.
Still carrying my boomstick around.
I mean, that would be something if you would have referenced Onan.
Yeah.
But no.
I don't think he mentioned him at all.
No.
Actually, I don't think many people mentioned Onan after that. It's kind of a sore topic, I think.
Until now.
Well, yeah. Then you get Cassidy Canubi, so Pius the 11th,
somewhere in there,
somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
He made reference to him, and I think Onan even made it into a footnote in maybe Humani Vitae. Although the other day I was looking at ChatGPT. I said, please list all the Catholic encyclicals that have cited the story of Onan. Cassidy Canubi, Humani Vitae, which I'm not certain. I think it does. I think it refers to Onanism in their discussion of contraception. And then the other one was Veritas Splendor by John Paul II. I was like, I didn't know that. Went back and searched it. It's not mentioned in there. So ChatGPT
was wrong.
Apparently you can't.
Misled by AI.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk? Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I mean,
I wonder if you could ask it to show you where it was used in that encyclical.
I'll have to try it next time. Can you give me like the actual page number or site? But it's not a lot. And given the weight, given the amount of weight that trads, especially set of a contest, boy, they love
Onan.
Yeah, they
huge Onan fans.
They are. It's like, and the other day I was asking, I was like, do you really think that God killed Onan simply for coitus interruptus, for spilling a seed in the city? He's like, yeah, for sure. Like, so what about everyone else? Well, like Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord will make an example of people from time to time.
Oh, okay. All right. Is that, or is it something else?
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of makes God look unpredictable and vindictive. I don't know. I mean, again, Lord, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job, but that
oh gosh,
we got good ceiling above us.
Yeah,
I just that just it strikes me as again implausible, not impossible.
Yeah, I suspect because it's only like a line in the. It's not. There's a lot of detail,
and it doesn't say why. Like I mean, it doesn't say God smote him for spilling his seed and not fulfilling the procreative end of the marital act or whatever. Like it's not like and Onan was not in a marriage like the rest of us. Like
it's a forced marriage.
It was
of all things.
It was a forced marriage. It was this whole Levitical obligation,
and she could have really been negging him. You know, I mean,
well,
you don't know what kind of circumstances there are that would make a guy do that.
Well, and then that gal, well, then she goes out and she dresses up like a prostitute and sleeps with Onan's dad. He gets her pregnant, and that's okay.
See,
nothing happens to him. That guy, I don't get that.
This is some Jerry Springer stuff.
Yeah,
right
like how does that not?
And
get
you are the father.
Yeah,
that's Marty Povich, but
that's right.
And God's okay with that.
Apparently, I just think, boy, if you just
doesn't matter how it happens as long as it's the proper way.
I mean, people just, I don't know. I think we're allowed to question this a little bit. And
at least talk about it,
but not according to the Twitter, not according to the YouTube comments. Oh my gosh! Oh, poor Diane. She shows up a couple times, old videos. She's up there. She's
going through them all. Huh?
Yeah, the angry old guy waving his fist at the sky or whatever. But Diane, I don't know what she looks like, but who? I mean, and people get really angry if you ask questions, like you dare suggest that Onan. I mean, I don't know if we're required to believe the story is historically accurate. I mean, especially Genesis, a lot of Genesis. I know it's all the modernists and their liberal view of Scripture, but like, come on, like
some of it could be allegory,
right?
Job. I think we believe that is mostly allegory and just a story, and that's fine.
Jonah is historically true. We don't want to take
for sure
take anything away from that, but it's just interesting how literalist, traditionalists can really become on this stuff, especially on this kind of stuff. They'll pick a line here or there. What's interesting is. I've researched the topic of masturbation from.
That's just funny.
That should be in the intro.
I mean, that's just funny.
From the standpoint of Protestants or non-Catholics, I'm always curious how they do it, and they kind of come, as you can expect, they're much more tempered about this stuff than Catholics, but some of them are.
Yeah.
But the one argument I heard recently was that they said, well, Jesus implicitly condemned masturbation when the whole part about, even if a man looks on a woman with lust in his heart, or with lust in his heart, he's committed adultery. And then if your right hand sins against you, cut it off.
I'm not sure he's talking about it there.
Well, there are people, including some very traditional Catholics, who believe that is Jesus' way of condemning masturbation. I'm like, well,
he could have clearly said it.
Yeah, like, again, this is the Lord. Like, why would he need to tiptoe around the tulips here?
Yeah, and I mean, is anybody cutting their hands off?
Well, that's just it.
So you're not taking his advice then?
Yeah, it's clearly allegory. It was clearly not meant to be taken literally. I hope not.
Like hyperbole.
Yeah. So it's just fascinating how traditional Catholics can be very scriptural literalists.
But Jesus apparently didn't have any issues with eunuchs either.
Well,
so
yeah, maybe that's what we all have to do.
The thing is that
does that cure that problem? Do you think?
I have no idea.
You're just taking parts of it, right? You're not taking all of it.
Well, I'm not sure. But the thing is that just questioning it or talking about it doesn't affect my faith at all. Like,
yeah.
And then I don't feel anything threatening by it. It's fine to think about and talk about. And I think it's best to focus on prayer and just trusting in God's mercy, and the rest will work itself out eventually, I hope.
This is the challenge that I think a lot of people eventually face, especially if you have kind of found yourself in a very traditionalist mindset, is some of these things that are just, you're supposed to just accept them as gospel, um, sometimes start to not make so much sense. And when you've convinced yourself or told yourself that this has to be true because the church says it's true and it can't be otherwise, or if this is incorrect now, I can't believe the church is true. Like that is something I see a lot in trads and former trads, where there just isn't any flexibility built in to that apparatus to deal with kind of obvious problems and some of these, especially
Which is funny because I just wonder what it was like when they corrected the stance that people could have sex during Advent or Lent. Like what that was like. Like was that a celebration then when they lifted it? I would think so. Or they're like, oh gosh, thank goodness we've been doing this for years, anyways.
Right. Well, and they'll say, well, that's a discipline of the church. That's not a moral teaching like that can change.
It seems like it was taught with the same sort of consequences as this. So
it was certainly the same spirit was behind it, or for those that were imposing those rules. But I don't know.
Or maybe most people didn't even know about it. And so that's why they lifted it. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know how that happened.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know why it was imposed, and then, like you said, why it was lifted. Maybe the priests got time spending all their time hearing confessions about all the soloists,
or they could just tell that kids were born, at different times.
We need some baptisms.
Yeah, if you had had a baptism like in June or July, there's a chance that.
Yeah.
I suppose though maybe you could always say, oh, I don't know, it's just a fast developing baby or whatever. I'm sure that they had reasoning.
Right. I don't know. It was this different time for sure. But well, so getting back to episode 250 and the topic of masturbation, one of the things that I got to thinking about after the fact, and I kind of got into this a little bit with an exchange with someone, is they're like, oh no, that all makes perfect sense, and the stuff about the seed, I'm like, well, that's not even seed. Like I think it was Saint Clement of Alexandria was kind of one of the earliest church fathers to wag his finger at this stuff, the sowing of the seed and where it can't grow and stuff. I'm like, well, we know it's not seed, and we know that like it's not like you just you deposit it in the female and it grows. Like a lot of things have to happen, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. The fact that they didn't fully understand, the spirit of it is right. I'm like, well, is it or isn't it? Like how much did their view of biology, which we now know was just incorrect, and it's not that they were being disingenuous, and they legitimately would not have known, right? And so how much of their moral concepts were impacted by their clearly imperfect or flawed biological views? I think it's worth asking that. I think it's fair to ask that.
That's fine.
But even to take a step back, I'm like, okay, all this stuff about wasting seed and all this and that is all fine and dandy for the guy, but what about the woman? Like, what's the historical argument for why women can't go solo? There isn't any. I think there isn't a comparable.
I think at one time it was okay, right?
I don't know. Apparently it was common up and through like the 1800s for women to actually like literally go to a doctor or someone who would take care of that problem.
Take care of hysteria, I believe.
That's quite a job.
That's just wild.
I can't wrap my head around what that. I wonder what the medical textbooks looked like back then for that. But but I don't know if the church ever got on board with that. But the whole seed concepts doesn't make any sense when you're talking about females. So what's the basis for that? Of course, if you look say in more modern times, I think the catechism, they tried to get around that. They don't talk about masturbation as wrong because it's wasting the seed. They say, the deliberate stimulation of the genital organs in order to derive sexual pleasure. Well, that encompasses that, right?
Mhm.
And then you have more of the JP2 theology of the body about, our sexual faculties are ordered towards procreation.
Mhm.
But that's a pretty new development as it pertains to women.
Mhm.
I'd like to someone to say, how did the early church fathers, why do they argue that women can't do it?
I just did a quick search on that, and they said it wasn't really medieval penitentials occasionally mentioned it. So I'm not sure, when it was really fully condemned,
So,
or if they ever officially stated it was different than the male situation.
I mean, I just can't imagine St. Alphonsus Liguori being okay with that, but maybe I don't know. Maybe he was too occupied with other things.
He had his hands tied behind his back.
Yeah, maybe he didn't. Yeah. So anyway, I think that I think episode 250 was an important episode for kind of providing kind of a big picture view of this in a way that is less, I don't know, it's not the way it's presented on Christopher West and the commentators who will, this is what, this makes perfect sense. And yes, of course we should follow this and whatever. And not that we're taking a different position necessarily, but I just think laying it out, here's all the pieces. We're showing it to you guys. I hope that episode leads to more discussion and people like, because we've gotten a lot of feedback like, wow, I learned a lot in that episode. I didn't know that. I learned a lot just doing that research, right? But this issue it's one of those things that no one really wants to talk about it, but it affects all of us.
The problem is that it leads to despair among a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where they think they're basically unredeemable, I think, which is,
yeah,
it's just kind of ridiculous to put it within that sense, because God's mercy is great, and it's not like he killed somebody.
Well, and I just don't think there's another scenario, any other kind of moral issue that has this level of commonality and attraction, if you will. I mean, if St. Alphonsus Liguori or another saint, like the legitimately
Francis, the guy with the stigmata.
Yeah. If it's
pre-stigmata days.
Yeah. If these guys legitimately struggled with it too, there's a story that Martin Luther really struggled with it, and that kind of led to his demise because he fell into despair. He was he
was hanging around an attractive nun, apparently.
Well, I don't know what is certainly his pre.
Or does any nun look attractive at that point?
Yeah. I don't know, when you're around a bunch of other monks and got your head shaved, I don't imagine she had to be all that attractive, but
yeah,
who am I to say?
But I've been a 3 with a 10 personality. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. But if those guys struggle with it, I can't imagine those guys struggling with anything else to this degree.
I doubt they were stealing and whatever else.
And it's something that doesn't really seem to have any obvious biological negative consequences unless you become kind of compulsive and addictive about it, which is legit concern.
Possible.
But just an act itself, it appears kind of natural, and there's a you understand. it's a response to a very, very real, consistent biological urge. Unlike,
Just reminds me of the scene from American Pie where the dad is giving the son the pep talk and talking about just
yeah.
the reality of the situation. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's such a weird issue because it is so common, even among good Catholics, even among saints and doctors of the church, apparently. And yet here we are, still saying, in the course of constant tradition, the moral sense of the faithful have been in no doubt and have firmly maintained.
Yeah.
I just that doesn't seem realistic to me, but I don't know.
I don't know either, but here we are.
Yeah, but what I want to get at before we wrap it up here is this. So one of the reasons I talk about this, we talk about this a lot, and other acts, is this idea that good Catholics, good married Catholics, can only experience any of the benefits of sexual intimacy. I'll put our thing up on the screen here. Procreation, unity, bond, pleasure, release. If that can only happen through the conjugal act, and a conjugal act that has to be open to life, no birth control or anything like that. If that is the only way that people, single or married, but especially married, can experience any of those things without any other outlets, whether it's 2352 or mutual or whatever, that is an enormous factor in the marriage and health and just the mental well-being of that individual and the couple, right?
And I doubt that was obvious to people from the beginning, from the first human, from Adam and Eve to today. It's not like that's obvious.
That you shouldn't do
that. You should only do it the one way. I kind of doubt that was obvious.
It does. Yeah. I mean, it certainly. Did anyone really think that until St. Augustine came along or St. Thomas Aquinas? And even then, I think you step outside of the...
I don't think that was part of the Jewish faith.
I don't know. I can't speak for them too much. I think it depended a little.
I mean, they would have had Onan too. So
I think the old... I mean, we kind of went over this a little bit.
Yeah, the ritual impurity.
Yeah, I think they had some...
But ritual impurity isn't like people going to hell either.
Right.
They just had to wait a few days before they could go to the temple.
Right. Which even that seems weirdly backwards to me. But yeah, like you said, like it isn't even the fact that the church historically or currently doesn't endorse it or discourages it or whatever. It's not even that. It's like, no, it's intrinsically disordered. You can never do it under any circumstances. It's a grave matter on the plane of all other grave matters. And if you do it knowingly and willingly, one single act can damn you to hell for eternity. Like, how? I don't even know how that can be. I can't understand how that could possibly be true.
Yeah.
And like, legit, I just don't see it.
Yeah. I don't know, for that to be on the same level as like abortion or killing somebody or, all those other sorts of things.
Hell is hell. I mean, so, and I know that in practice, the priests especially, I think, are, for the most part, Father Rippagers and Father David Nix's notwithstanding, are pretty pastoral about it in practice, but they're still like, they're dancing around. I mean, they're operating under the same rules as the rest of us, and maybe they're leaning on paragraph 2 of 2352, but I don't know. I think that given the difference in terms of level of difficulty and level of stress on the marriage, between one that, let's say, follows the rule with respect to the conjugal act, no birth control, etc., but isn't the only way that the couple or individuals can express themselves sexually. If they have some other options available to them,
Mm-hmm.
that marriage is very, very different in practice than the one that says it's the conjugal act or nothing, right?
Without a doubt.
To a great degree.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that there's an especially high burden of proof on the church or whoever to explain why these acts are so contrary to our moral codes or whatever, that a couple needs to endure that and have their
at all costs.
Yeah.
Divorce.
Yeah.
Constant friction.
Yeah.
Whether all those things are worth it.
Right. So I think that has to, I don't know if they don't appreciate the severity of it.
Well, there's no way that they have any idea what being married is like and
Right.
what the day-to-day struggles are like. You just can't imagine it till you're in it.
Right.
So they have no idea what these sorts of
Yeah.
things are like, unless you know a father long and neck or somebody that's married.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just think someone higher up the food chain than us ought to really look at this and either look at it carefully and say, do we have this correct? Is that the actual correct teaching?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when it comes to other acts like solo stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's something you should avoid. I mean, as far as like,
I don't think anyone likes doing it.
You don't want to celebrate it.
No. But maybe it's something that's tolerated. I don't know, or it's based a little more on circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
That
makes more sense than just a painting with a broad brush.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but I think someone needs to explain why, if that is the standard, why it is, and very compelling. Because couples are, I would say, in talking to the couples we talk to, most of them at some point in time can't follow that standard.
Oh yeah,
right. Like they're.
Well, can anybody?
I don't know if anyone truly can.
Because any wife that thinks that her husband doesn't deal with these issues at all is just like blind to it.
Right.
I mean, and that's just a fact.
Right. Yep.
I mean,
yeah. If his hands aren't tied behind his back, you can kind of imagine, you can assume it's probably happening at some point in time. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately what we're requesting is provide us with a lot more of a robust explanation, if that is in fact what the standard is. And if that isn't what the standard is, if we don't actually believe that or don't have a good reason for believing that, can we revisit it?
I think it's more that there's no explanation, no expansion that can be given. It's just
seems that way. I mean, I've searched long and hard
dug
for
deep,
it.
Yeah.
Maybe episode 300 we'll do another, a deeper dive into it's. But the other acts thing is integrally tied with masturbation.
Yeah, that's the issue. Even though it's not even remotely the same.
They're different, but I think as a practical sense, as long as we have this view of masturbation, you're never going to be able to justify other acts, I think, in a lot of people's minds. So anyway, yeah. So episode 250 was a lot of fun. We've gotten a lot of good commentary on it. I think it's one that's going to continue to be viewed over time because there just isn't anything else out there quite like it. For better or for worse.
You went on a long and solo journey to dig all that information up. So
that's right.
Pretty impressive.
Yep. Without even having my hands tied behind my back, it did it all.
Needed to type.
Yeah, had to be one-handed. Siri.
I don't think one hand would have helped Alphonsus Liguori either.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way.
That's true.
So anyway, if anyone has any actual support for that story about St. Alphonsus, we're not here to smudge his character and
Oh no, I don't think
But
that
it's a
we're smudging
story.
his character at all. I mean, I guess some people could see it that way, but they don't have a sense of humor if they do. I mean, I know that he can laugh about it. I mean, there's no way you couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you'd have to be a pretty serious guy to not think that's funny.
right.
That's true.
Yep. So sorry, all you trads who.
And sorry, Diane.
Yeah, don't like jokes about doctors of the church or whatever, but.
Well, I mean, he did it supposedly.
Well, that's what we've been told. I haven't found any actual proof of that yet.
You don't think the rope is somewhere in the Vatican? Can venerate the rope, maybe?
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, it's important.
Oh
You can't know that's not even wrong. There's nothing wrong with that because that was an important piece of material for that guy.
It's been all chopped up as like third-class relics or whatever.
Yeah. See, if you could get a chunk of the rope. I'm serious. I mean, they give out chunks of hair and whatever else, but this rope was actually served a purpose.
Yeah.
It's true.
Did he ever have to stop using it? I don't know.
Oh, boy, no, that's a good question.
Did he ever age out of it? It's like, hey.
Is he just buried? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can handle this.
Even at the end, not gonna untie the hands. Because then, you're right. At what point do you say, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Untie me.
Hold on, tie me back up. Get back here, guys. Hurry. I mean, how did you sleep that way? Because that's kind of when you need it the most, right?
Don't tell me he slept on his stomach either.
I don't believe it.
I'm just saying. Well, I'm just saying.
These seem like legit questions to ask.
Because you wouldn't want him tied in the front, probably, for sleeping purposes. I mean,
right.
Tied him to the.
Oh,
I don't know.
Use your imagination.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder how that happened. Maybe, I don't know. Can't even guess. But the rope, I think, would be quite a third-class relic.
Huh. Let's see if we can get your hands on that, baby.
Mm-hmm. That's what she said.
That's right. That's right. On that note,
all right.
For those of you who are still hanging around, yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. If you haven't already caught it, we're going to do a live stream, which will be before this video comes out. We're doing a live stream to respond to good old friend Father Ripperger and Timothy Gordon. They had kind of a saucy video that came out, so we're going to live stream with some other people on that one. Otherwise, yeah, appreciate everyone listening. If you're not already on our newsletter, get on the newsletter. If you'd like to get into the Discord, all that, you can go to unchartedcatholicman.com. It's on our link tree. You can get into both of those things. So hope you will like and follow. And until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.